The next one is about the stacking. So first, we also need to learn something about stacking. So what's the advantage of the stacking? The value point. The first value point is to solve the problem of equipment redundancy at the aggregation layer and the core layer, and increase the reliability of the aggregation layer and the core layer. It can also to improve the redundancy and increase the reliability. And the second, it's easy management and the port explanation. Uh, for the stacking, uh, for example, the two switch, we stacking it together, and then it had only one IP address. You can think it is that the two stacking devices is only one devices, but with the double ports, easy management, and the high reliability. So here is a picture here to explain. About the local traffic forwarding priority. Without the local traffic forwarding, the data, the user's data, for example, when he arrived at the switch A, it will send to switch B, and switch B will send to the switch C. But after we enable the local traffic forwarding priority, when the traffic arrives at switch A, it will be locally forwarded directly. Second is the stack split. The stack split refers to the stable operation of a stacking system, where some of the member switches are moved out of power, or the multi-point failure of the stacking cable caused one stacking system to become the multiple stacking system. So we need to use the master detection to detect whether there is a multi-master. Since all the member switches in the stacking system use the same IP address and the MAC address, so after stack is split, the multiple stacking system with the same IP address and the same MAC address may be generated. So we need to detect it to prevent the multiple stack systems with the same IP address and MAC address in the network, causing the network failures. So we need to use the cable to connect it and then to detect whether there is the multi-master detection. For the proxy detection, there is two kinds of detection. The first is the direct connect detection. For the proxy detection, it's to enable the detection on the aggregation port of the stacking switch. It requires all the member switches in the stacking switch are connected to the proxy devices, and add these links to the same link aggregation group. Use LCP link aggregation, and the proxy devices need to be smart switch. only the smart switch, only Sundray smart switch can support the proxy detection. And for the fifth, it's the reserved parts. In the event of stack splitting, the interface configured as a reserved port will not be shut down. For this port, it's more like the excluded port in the MLAC, right? It means it used for when the stacking splitting, and the other ports will be arrowed down or be disabled. But after we enable the reserved ports, even though the stacking splitting and the reserved port will still works. For the optimization of DHCP multi-master distribution function, it can optimize when a dual master situation occurs. The stack is completely split. The stack line and the multi-master detection link are both disconnected. The newly connected device avoid conflict in the allocation of the same IP address and result in the abnormal terminal network. So our approach is to split the two switches to assign only single and double IP address to avoid insufficient addresses. So it's recommended that when configuring same DHCP, the number of allocated address is at least twice the number of address actually used. For now, Sundray also most supports two devices, two smart switch be stacking together, and the team already will to extend this number to 8. It means in the future we can support the 8 switch stacking together. Okay, here is the Sundray RS switch supports stacking models and the ports. All the smart switch with the optical port can support stacked. And for now, it can support 2 smart switch in stacking. And in the future, we will support 8 devices. In the future, we will support 8 devices to stacking together. So when you get a project and you want to make stacking, you need to check this table whether the model you choose can support to make a stacking with the other model. For example, if you want to stack 2 Sundray switch together, for example, the model RS33028T4F. If you choose this model and want to make the stacking, for the other model, for the other devices, the model should be the same model or the model with 52 port. The precautions for the stacking of RS switch. In the conjunction of the chart on the previous page, there are the following precautions before configuration the stacking. First, currently support up to 2 switch stacks together, and the second is support multiple stack ports. Each stack supports up to the 8 stack ports for the stacking. And for the third, the optical ports of the devices are supported as the stack ports. Only some optical ports of this model are supported as stacking ports. Each switch can only automatically take effect when the stacking ports on the same chip is configured. because for each switch there is a different the interface is on the different chip. So if you want to make the stacking, you need to choose the port on the same chip. The port is configured as the stack port. The default takes effect at the maximum rate. For example, if you make the stacking and you use the 10 gigabit optical ports, and the port rate will take effects at the maximum rate. So you need to use the 10 gigabit SFP optical model for this port. The next is about stacking configuration. So for the configuration in phase switch mode, the first we need to activate all the switch online first, and the second, select the switch that needs to be stacked and specify the switch priority. Usually we use the following steps to elect the main switch. If there are multiple number switches that are already started, then we will compare the stack priority of this switch, and the switch with the highest switch stack priority is elected as the master switch first. If the stacking priority of some member switch is the same, and then we compare the MAC address of the switch. And then we select the stacking port. So which port we used for the stacking? Usually we choose the optical ports with the maximum rate. And then is to configure the multi-master detection and the resolve ports in the abnormal scenario. At last, it's about the advanced function, such as alarm detection. Okay, we go to the details. The first, we need to activate all switch online first, and to ensure that all switch versions are consistent with the controller version. Actually, here there is a list. It's the corresponding RS switch version and the controller version. For example, now our controller is WAC 3.8.0.3, this version. For the corresponding switch version, it's switch 2.6 version. So before we make the stacking, we need to confirm that the switch already upgrades to the latest version and it's corresponding to the software, controller software version. And then after making sure that the switches are online, we go to the high availability, the virtualization cluster. We go to the high availability and switch clustering, and then to new the switch stack. This one used to build the highly reliable layer 2 and layer 3 network. Switches can be configured centrally. And then we choose the two switch, which will be stacked together. And to configure the priority for each switch. The switch with the priority with the bigger the priority number and the highest priority. So for example, now the master devices is the switch with priority 129. It's bigger than the other. The priority range, number range is from 1 to 255. And then we need to select the switch stacking ports of the two switch. For example, for the switch 1, which is the GE port, 49 port, and for the second switch, we also to choose the 49 port. After we select the stacking optical ports, we need to enable the local traffic forwarding priority. As we said in the picture before, with the local traffic forwarding. It can be for when the traffic arrived at the devices, you can forward it locally, and it's more efficient. Also, for the hello message timeout, if the standby machine in the stacking system doesn't receive the keep alive message sent by the host, it will be automatically upgraded to the host. For this timeout is when these two devices stacking together, it will send the hello message to each other. It will send the hello message to the standby. If the standby cannot receive the message from the master more than 10 seconds, it will automatically upgrade to the master. After connect, and then we need to configure the IP address and the controller IP for this stacking system. Because before each switch they has the IP address, they have the VLAN settings, and then if we combine this, if we stacking these two devices together, it will be a new devices. So we need to configure these devices again. For example, the controller IP address for discover. After we save the settings, the devices, the stacking system will restart. So it need to be discovered by the controller again. And the IP address we already configured here. For the assign switch port, this is for the reserved port. Since all the member switch in the stacking system use the same IP address and the MAC address, so after a stack is split, the multiple stacking system with the same IP address and MAC address will be generated. To prevent this kind of situation, we need to enable the multiple active detection. For the multiple active detection, there is two kinds of methods. The first is direct mode. The second is the relay mode. For the relay mode detection, it only supports Sundray smart switch. For the other devices, we use the direct mode to detect whether there is the multi-master. And for the next we configure the reserved ports upon the link port. And for the multiple direction, we need also to choose the VLAN interface and the diagnosed port. For the relay mode, the detection port must meet the following condition. The first is contains the ports of each member switch, and the second is the working mode. It's LACP stack mode, and the third is LACP message working mode. It's the active mode. For the diagnosed ports, we also need to configure the type of the port, whether it's a load sharing scam, and which port included, and for the VLAN settings, whether it's a layer 2 or layer 3 access port or trunk port, which VLAN need to be configured. So after the switch status page is after we configured all the settings, and then the stacking devices will restart. After it restarts, it will be discovered by the controller again. And then we go to the switch management center. The switch center, we can see that the two switch already stacking together. And from the picture, the CAPS 5128, this is the switch model, and one switch as a master and one is the standby. As we can see from the optical ports, the 25 port. This is the optical port for the stacking, connected by the optical cable. The hardware mode of switch configuration interface will change to stack, and the interface name will also change. So in the switch management switch, you can see that there is a new switch, and the IP address we already configured before, and the switch mode we can see that it's already changed to the stacking. And actually, this stacking devices has the two devices combined together. Also, you can notify the administrator in a timely manner through the SMS. So with the intelligent alerting, we can send you the information of the switch. For example, the stack link, the status change, or the mad status change, or active standby switch over occurrence in stacking. So this information will be sent by EMS after you enable the alarm notification. The stack switch cannot go online to the controller. You can go to the maintains the remote plugin in the device diagnostics to scan for the offline switch, and to configure and to choose the switch, and to exit the stack mode, then the activity again to make it online in normal mode. For the fight switch configuration stacking, first we need to ensure that the software version of the two switches to be stacked as the same, and then we go to the web interface, the high availability switch stacking to config. Now the first is for the master. We need to configure the stacking ID. Stacking ID here we choose we configure the one. Only the devices with the same stacking system ID can form a stack with ID value from 1 to 65535. And for the config the group member ID. The group member ID is the Unicode identifier of a switch in the stacking system. The value range is 1 to 8. The group member ID of all member devices in the stack is Unicode. So for these devices, the member ID is 1. And for the other stacking devices, it shouldn't be 1 again. So this is the different with the MLAG or VIP. For this number, for the FAT AP mode, this member ID shouldn't be the same. The value can be from 2 to 8. And the next one is about the priority. The one with the highest priority, and the value range from 1 to 255. Next, we need to configure the stacking ports. Select this port as a stack port, shown in the figure below, the port 25. And then we just save. We keep the hello message timeout as a default. And for the next switch, After we save this, we need to configure the stacking management address. After confirming the configuration, clicking yes, the switch will automatically restart, and the login password will be restored to the initial password admin after restart. The configuration of the standby switch is the same with the main switch. The stack ID should be same, but for the member ID shouldn't be the same. For the priority, we just make it smaller than the master switch, because for the priority, the highest the highest priority number switch will be the master, and then we choose the stack ports. The same with the 25 ports also. After save this, we need to configure the IP address, switch stacking IP address, and the management interface. The stacking, after we configure the interface, we need to configure the multiple active detection. We can perform the following reserved port and the multi-master detection configuration. Here we choose the direct mode, and the reserved port is G201. And for the VLAN interface, we use the VLAN 4000s. Diagnose ports, it's G2023. Yeah, after in the system status, after we configure it, after we finish configuring the system status, the operating system, we can see that the stacking status of the current devices. In the port list, you can see that all the port information of the two stacking devices, and the port name also change. The interface on the main switch is group member ID, and the interface on the standby switch is a group member ID. This one, as in the above configuration. Yeah, for the member ID. The member ID will be used here to distinguish which interface is belong to which device. For stacking, how to upgrade the devices. When updating the stacking equipment, you need to unplug the stacking line. First, you need to unplug, and then to unplug the multi-main detection line, conflicting the service line, and then you need to upgrade. So at that time, the both switches become the main switch, because all the connected cable be unplugged, so it becomes the main switch. At this time, the IP address, IP of the two switch is the same, and you can upgrade the two switch separately. Okay, for the stacking, introduction and the configuration is already finished.